Merthyr Tydfil, the area that currently holds the unenviable title of the highest rate of new COVID-19 cases in the UK. Cases there per 100,000 people have almost doubled in a week. It's these troubling rising numbers in Wales that led to them announcing a third national lockdown from the 28th. Last night, Northern Ireland followed suit, announcing a 6-week lockdown beginning Boxing Day to curb rising cases, leading to questions for leaders in Scotland and England as to whether they'll do the same.
Obviously, we're hoping very much that we'll be able to avoid anything like that, but
Boris Johnson says we're hoping to avoid anything like that. Let me scratch my head. Where have we heard that before? Oh, it was lockdown 1 and 2, wasn't it? Hoping we can avoid anything like that. He's done totally the opposite all the way through. Have you noticed the pattern, people? In the first lockdown and the second lockdown. I tell you, these people are that evil on its own, people. They've kept on lifting everybody's spirits that everything's going to be alright, and then it's like they pull the rug from underneath you at the very last minute. That's what's been going on. Do you really trust Boris Johnson? Do you really believe, looking at him, that he really cares about you? Do you? Do you? He wants to avoid doing anything like that? Do you really think he means that? No, does he, fuck? He doesn't give a flying shit about one person. What is outside of his own family. He's a dictator. And he's being ruled and run by the WHO. The World Health Organization, the World Economic Forum? Seems to me that they're the ones calling the shots. Let's not forget again, Event 201, a global pandemic exercise that happened 2 months prior to the COVID kicking in, the coronavirus pandemic. And then the exercise become real. And what was his name? Somebody, Pompey or something, stood with Trump, who actually confessed and admitted we're in a live exercise right now. Well, as soon as he said it, he twigged into me. Event 201. Global pandemic exercise. So they held an exercise that then became real, and we now, people, are living in that exercise. Get that in your heads. We're living in that exercise. We're playing out in a role. You might not think you're living in a role, but you are playing out in a role. Well, certainly all those who are following it all and swallowing it all, they're playing the role, and they are the ones that are going to bring all us down. And it's sad, really. And you can see the frustration that's building in all of us for the simple reason, because it's people around you. We're trying to wake them up and they're just not having any of it. And I've said in comments that there's two kinds of sources that we need to be fearing. That's your government and these hidden shadow dictators, and the people living around you who are going to dob you in and tow you in, because they're being indoctrinated to fear you in believing that this is an out of proportion pandemic, and there's been that much fear put in them. They believe it, that they are willing to dob you in, snitch on you, grass on you, and the police are openly admitting it and telling them to do these things, and various different countries saying, call the police if you see somebody who's doing this, doing that. It was already happening, wasn't it? People having a barbecue in the garden, too many people round somebody's house, and things like that. You know, like I say, it's two kinds that we need to be fearing, but don't trust Boris Johnson. He's playing like the good cop, bad cop type of thing. All trickery of the words to convince you Boris Johnson cares and is doing right by you. You know, he won't save your life from a virus, but wants to remove all your human civil rights, your God-given rights. That's Boris Johnson for you, and the rest of them as well. All the other countries what are doing exactly the same thing. They're doing the same thing because they've already sold us out. They've already signed up to this one world European government, this one world army that they want to set up. People need to understand the underlying bigger pictures here, what this COVID is truly about. And to me, the virus itself is nothing in comparison to what they are wanting to achieve. And like I've said, they've given themselves 10 years to want to achieve that goal, Agenda 30.
The reality is that the rates of infection have increased very much in the last few weeks.
The rates of infection have increased in the last few weeks. Have they? Well, we all know why the rates of infection, so-called infection, it's not infection at all. I don't have to repeat myself to most of you lot who know where I'm coming from here anyway, because I've called it out 1 times. Don't believe it. I'll never believe it in a month of Sunday dinners. Look when it went up and started to rise and all the cases started shooting up again. It was bang on cue when they started testing everyone. This is a no-brainer, folks, and it's a pretty well no-brainer, this one is. You know, you're going to start testing everybody up and down, calling everyone for testing, setting up testing centres. What are you going to get? Increased rates of infection, because that's what they want to increase the rates of infection. How do you fool a population to get a vaccine? Boost up the rates of infection. It's all about fear, isn't it? Fear, 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 fear. Yeah, boost up the numbers. So how do you solve it then? How do you stop the rates of infection? The answer is very simple. Stop fucking testing.
So what we're saying to people now over this Christmas period is, think of those rules about the 3 households that you can bubble up with, the 5 days. That is very much a maximum. That's not a target people should aim for, and I think people really get this.
Think about the rules, folks. Think about the rules. You're only going to think about the rules if you're an order follower. You're a gullible sheep. You're a gullible idiot. And you believe the government is your saviour and wants to save your life from such a killer virus that they've got to call you for a test to see if you've got it. Makes sense, doesn't it? And have you noticed how he plays the game with you? You can tell he's giving the action of, I want to be your friend, I'm with you on this, I'm your friend. Nah folks, don't be duped. Don't be duped by Johnson and his crony fucking government people like Hancock Whitty, all giving you the lies and the crap. I really get this guy. I could see through Johnson and the rest of them when they blagging you, and that's what he is. He's a blagger, pulling on people. Care for you, Look a while ago when he was guilt tripping and everything about infecting your grandma and your loved ones and that. Oh, you don't want to do this and you don't want to do that because think about your loved one. Pulling on people's heartstrings and that. If your mind's open, you can truly see how sick that truly is. These people are sick, truly Truly, they belong in the sewer, these people. I hope if there's a heaven and a hell, that Boris Johnson certainly makes it down into hell. That's where he belongs. Wouldn't it be nice, folks, if we could really, if we come to an end of this as soon as possible, and we really could get a Nuremberg trial set up and have them all there being questioned about what's going on, because what's going on right now is certainly not for the greater good of humanity. I can tell you that. You can mark my words, honestly. And well, I don't have to convince some of you. You're living with the frustration. You're living with the waking up every morning. Probably a bit like myself. Some mornings I'd rather not wake up. Be honest with you now. Living with this. What is it now? 9 months, isn't it? It's about 9 months now we've been living with this shit. What did he say? We're only going to go in lockdown or something it's supposed to last about a week or two, didn't it? 7 months later. It's not going to stop this, isn't, folks? It's going to go on for a long time, I feel. Because they've already kick-started the reset. And for stop now would collapse the whole thing. He's got to continue to establish it, no matter how long that takes. And these lockdowns and these measures have got to continue and got to keep being rammed in his faces, and we've got to live by this. Because what other means can they use, really, to enforce to achieve that? They've got to use some method to enforce on the people to achieve what they need to achieve, and it can't be achieved overnight. This is why I say they've given themselves 10 years to do it, and it is very true that the greatest thing that they can use on the population to achieve long-term gains is fear. All the way through this is fear. You turn your TV on, and we've been rammed with this now for 7 months, like I say. You look at the news, it's been nothing but COVID, coronavirus cases, deaths, figures. But I'm still not having any of it. I'm going with what I truly believe, and my beliefs in what I think is going on. Sometimes I've sat and questioned myself, like some of you lot might do. And I have done it more in the past, but not so much now, because I've decided with myself, a bit like going in shops in the early days and that. I've never worn a mask anyway, but you must believe in yourselves and go with the instinct of what you truly believe, and don't be fooled by, it's almost like someone else in your mind, isn't it, where you sit down and think, and you think, am I right on this subject? Am I right? Am I really thinking right here? Am I right to be doing this? Should I be doing this? Should I be questioning this? Or is it really this? Are they right? Are they dictators, or is this really a pandemic? You know, we've all gone through this, I'm sure. But I try not to do it as much just lately. Because, like I say, I'd rather go with what I truly do believe in, because there's no way on earth that I believe that this virus is airborne, that was said in the earlier days, and they might even ram it in the coming months, that this virus is now airborne. They've already said it's mutated. There is no way on, if they say any more of this airborne, you mustn't believe it, people, because without doing any research, common sense tells me it can't be airborne. Put it this way, if it was airborne, right, and you were in a little flat, a very small flat, the smallest flat possible, you'd want to tape every single crevice up of that flat to stop it coming in at you, because air's everywhere. Air is every single place. If it wasn't every single place, any building you entered, you'd starve of oxygen and die. So air is everywhere, but you'd want tape off that little flat to stop this virus coming in because it's airborne, it's going to kill you. Sooner or later, that air's going to run out and you're going to die anyway. There is no way on earth that this would ever be airborne. No. If it was airborne, humanity would be wiped out. So people need to get that out of their heads. I actually walked around in a vest, because I must have read this in the first lockdown, and I walked around in a vest in the good summertime period, and he actually had it wrote on my back and saying what I wrote on there in felt tip, saying coronavirus airborne, my arsehole, something to that effect. But that's me, that's how I'd rather put things, be very blunt about things. People laughed, people sniggered, people looked at me a bit gone out and filthy looks and that, but you're going to get that from firm believers, aren't you? But no, not having the airborne theory at all. I might be just rambling on a little bit here or whatever, but I'm trying to just pace myself out and just go with what I feel that I want to say and talk to people, you know. And I said previously, well, I think I've said it in comments, if I feel that I was chatting shit or anything like that, no one was ever interested anymore. I'd just forget the YouTube and not or making videos and just not bother. Like, you know, I'm not here for. I never initially made a YouTube channel for get point scoring, votes, you know, that's this type of thing, big myself up, subscribers or anything like that. That doesn't interest me in the slightest. Just engaging with people who have the similar thoughts as that I have, and realising that, you know, you're not in the same boat as these people that are believing all this. And there's, I think if I had just 5 subscribers who I could talk to and engage with messages between each other, comments, and we're both on the, we're all 5 of us are on the same page, that's good enough for me, you know. But, you know, we really are not in this alone with his thoughts, but as a whole, we are being dragged down by those that comply. They are pulling us down, and I have always been a strong believer for years that humanity are the true power on this planet. And the sad thing is that we don't even know it. If we did know it, we'd all rise together, and this government won't be able to do much about it, would they? What are they going to do to us all? What are they going to do? They can't round everybody up. They won't be able to control such a mass rising in population. They won't be able to control it. And this is what people need to get into their heads and understand. The faster we can come out of this, wake each other up, the faster humanity can wake up, I think this dictatorship will be doomed. And I think that's why they've speeded up this and it is all with one massive bombshell of it, and they've rolled it all together and it is in one whack. And that's what's become very mind-blowing for a lot of us, even me. I knew that this type of thing was going to be coming because I knew about the world order. You know, we're 19 years now I've been looking at stuff, and within that period I knew about the new world order, but I really did not think that it would happen in my lifetime. But it's here, and the way of life is slowly frittering away as we speak, because humanity is failing to wake up.
Weighing heavily on Boris Johnson's mind.
All a manipulation of words, folks. Weighing heavily on Boris Johnson's mind. Oh, so we've got to be all considerate about what's weighing heavy on his mind. Well, forget the population then, eh? The news, these people, what are it? News 4, Channel 4. Forget the population's mind. Let's just all think about what's weighing heavy on Boris Johnson's mind. Not the fact that people have been committing suicide all across the globe, and people have committed suicide in Britain alone, but let's worry about Boris Johnson's mind. Let's worry about his sanity. That's what the news is telling you there. That's how evil these people are. You can read through it, can't you, every single time. My heart bleeds for Boris Johnson. I hope his sanity's perfectly fine, I really do. I feel sorry for the guy. Let me get a sick bag out.
Will be areas like Kent, the current COVID-19 hotspot in England.
I had it last January.
What are your thoughts on this, folks? About people having it last December and last January? I've got to admit, I was bad myself for at least 3 weeks. But it was nothing more than when I'm generally bad. I often am bad once a year with a cold, but it's of different variations every time. Sometimes I can be mobile, just have a snotty nose, a sore throat. Sometimes you can have a severe cough. And at worst, sometimes I've been bedridden for 3 days and not been wanting eating and lost a fair bit of weight, because I dropped weight a fair bit when I'm run down and got these bugs or whatever. But I don't know about some of you. Some of you must have heard, and I have heard bits of tales that people saying that they feel that they'd already had it. Like I say, around December, January, February. I don't know if any of you lot have. Probably just drop something in comments or something if this video survives. But I did hear quite a lot of people feeling that they'd had something. Was it just the ordinary cold, flu, and then because this COVID came about, they had some finger pointing to blame. Oh well, that must have been that what I had then, because now we're living in COVID. You have to think about these things. Was it that people just had the cold, or was it something slightly different? But colds do fluctuate and vary each year, so they say, don't they? I mean, I don't want to go against the grain and say that I believe that something was there, but I'm just putting this one out there that a lot of people were saying that they'd had some strain of something around that time period. Just want to add about this guy here as well, and the news. You'll never see him broadcasting somebody who opposes what they want to hear. It's always pro. Remember that. Remember that when you see things. Like this guy saying he had that. Everyone's always pro the agenda. And ever someone who's opposite. They probably recorded people on the streets. Certain people, there was probably people they did record, saying, "Oh, I think this COVID's a load of bullshit. Oh, the coronavirus, my arse," this type of thing. But you're never going to see that side of things. It's always pro people. You know that.
My daughter's mother and father-in-law are both had it, both in hospital with it. My stepson has had it for the last 2 weeks. First time out on Thursday. His partner has now got it. It's rife.
His best friend and best friend's son both died.
Both died. Same week.
Yeah.
It's up to you to be sensible about things.
Oh, I'm battling with my sanity again on these two people. It's very hard when you see two people saying stuff like this. Should I call him a cunt? Should I call him a cunt? I don't know. I actually feel sorry for him. I actually feel sorry for him. They're just so gullible. They're just so gullible and stupid. And soaking all this up. This guy, man, what he's just said, you'd think he was a doctor, wouldn't you? You'd think he was a doctor, wouldn't you? He's so professional. He knows everybody who's got it. He knows everybody who's had it. 2 people who's died of it. You know, what can you say? God, they certainly plugged this guy, didn't they? Certainly plugged him and this woman. You've got to be careful. You've got to be safe. And I forgot what he just said without playing it again. But you know, it's just absolutely brainwashed. These are the types of people you're coming across every time you step out into society and go into your local town. And thank God, I hardly even go into town areas. I was never a fan of town areas before this COVID nonsense, because I don't fit in with people who really don't think I'm part of how people think and how people tick. The fakery, I really can't do with it. But God, these two, they need help, don't they? These two, they really do. I don't know, what can you say about them? With them being old, I think I have a bit of a weak spot for these old people, you know. What should you say? Like I said, should you call him a cunt or you absolute fucking brain dead morons, like, you know? Make your own judgment of them, but what can you say?
Say, well, we don't really need it this year. In a few months' time, I'm hopefully come spring, we can go and meet people in their gardens or our gardens. We can sit 2 metres apart. We can have a cup of tea and a sandwich, a cup, whatever, and have a social.
Weather permitting.
Weather permitting, yes.
I am quite scared. I think especially Medway, because we're tier 3, and as you can see, I don't think many people are sticking to the rules, to be honest with you.
Just my family, literally my children and us, we all live in the same household. My parents are staying away. I need to be working, so I can't risk getting it, they can't risk getting it.
The government's scientific committee earlier suggested if you are seeing vulnerable relatives this Christmas, to stop all other social interactions from today.
This woman is actually blind of the magnitude of the words that she's actually saying. Keeping her parents away, she's not even seeing her own family. She's not going to see her own parents. If anything was to happen, I'm sure to God she's got to be thinking she'll never be able to live with herself. That she never saw her own family and her own parents, her own mother and father, because she stayed away from them or kept them away. That's drastic. Is any virus truly worth not seeing your loved ones and staying away from your own parents and your family? You know, is it really worth the depth of forgetting how to live just for trying to live? Does that make any sense to you? Oh, God, when you hear these things, man, it's really... I could sit here, honestly, where I sit over my PC and think about things like this and ponder on them, and you think, God, it's incredible the magnitude of what people are doing and what people are saying. I wouldn't want to stay away from my family and my loved one. I would rather embrace the years that you have with your family, because none of us know how long we're here and how long we've got. What, for a phony virus? For a virus that you're not even seeing outside your front door? You're not witnessing nothing? And you'd sacrifice not being round your own family for that? Like I say, forgetting how to live just to live. Incredible. And then the news says, stay away from the vulnerable. Who's classed as the vulnerable? Aren't we all vulnerable? Aren't you vulnerable when you cross a road? Aren't you vulnerable when you go out the door? If you go swimming, you're vulnerable. Everything in life's vulnerable. The vulnerable thing. Nah, that's something that's really bugging me. I don't even like that word neither, vulnerable. It's just utter bullshit, folks.
With 1 week to go, what once seemed easy and carefree, now a bigger conundrum.
Well, joining me now is Professor Liam Smeeth. He's an epidemiologist at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, and he also works as a GP. Also joining us is Professor David Salisbury, a vaccinologist who's a former director of immunisation at the Department of Health. Welcome, gentlemen. Professor Smeeth, if I can start with you. We heard people in Anya Pop's report talking about it being rife. The figures are certainly worrying. When the PM says he wants to avoid a national lockdown in England, he's not going to be able to, is he?
I think he's right to leave his options open, but I do fear that we are heading in the wrong direction in spite of the tier system, and I would expect there to be the need for a lockdown, I'm afraid, after Christmas, yes.
And what should the restrictions on that lockdown look like?
I mean, similar to the recent circuit breaker we had, which did have an impact, but we started at quite a high level of circulating virus, so although it had an impact, it wasn't enough to bring it all the way down. But quite similar, so essential shops open, but really otherwise than that, people staying at home as much as they can, not mixing. We know these measures are dreadful for everyone, for young and old alike, but we also know that they work in controlling this virus and getting it back under control. So similar to the kind of circuit breaker we had in recent weeks.
Notice, folks, how they steer clear of assumptions. They don't want to feed you with assumptions all the way through this. You just said it twice there. We know. We know. Twice I heard him say it then. Will you listen? When you listen to the news, you'll hear them say it quite often. They're repeating the same lines. It's almost like you would think that this guy was sat with Boris Johnson, Hancock, 5 minutes before he did this interview. It makes you wonder, doesn't it, about these people? What are the backgrounds really, what they're all truly about? Is this really coming from his mind? Or is he towing the line and being fed that information? Because he's certainly running off all the similar type of little key point words that's been said in the 9 months since this lockdown stupidity all started. We know, we know, we know. They've all said it. Just listen out for it when you hear the news. All the key words, what keeps springing up.
Okay, Professor Salisbury, the way out of this cycle of lockdowns is going to be vaccination. The way out of this cycle of lockdowns is going to be vaccination. The way out of this cycle of lockdowns is going to be vaccination.
The way out of this lockdown is going to be vaccination. Not possibly going to be vaccination. It is going to be vaccination. Where else have we heard that before, folks? Bill Gates come to mind? That's what he said. The only way we can really get back to normal is if we get the whole population vaccinated. She just said exactly the same thing there. This is like your buzz pass, folks. The vaccine. In other words, you can't truly live your life unless you take the vaccine. What is it so big and so needy that Gates and the system want you to take that vaccine? What is it so big? They're calling on it so drastically. Even that should make you question, well, what the hell's in it then? If you want the whole planet vaccinated for even get back to normal. So you can't survive now. You can't live the life normal. You can't even exist properly on this earth unless you get this vaccination. Does that sound real to you folks? Does that sound normal? Does that sound like what life's about? Can't exist now on this earth unless you're taking the shot. And they've already warned us and telling us, because they've all hold crystal balls, that in the future there's going to be likely more and more pandemics. How do they know that, folks? How do they know that? I'm not asking you the question, how do they know that? Think about it. I'm not stupid. You're not stupid. We know what's going on here.
When do you see this cycle ending, and when will enough people be vaccinated?
Well, every vaccine campaign is entirely driven by the quantity of vaccine. And so until we know how much vaccine there will be week by week, we can't make any predictions about when this will actually have an impact on stopping the deaths and stopping the hospital admissions.
Well, so far the figures show nearly 140,000 people have been vaccinated in the UK. The government aims to get most vulnerable people and NHS workers vaccinated by Easter. Do you believe we're on track for that huge operation? Because there are concerns that actually we're not.
Well, the number of doses that have been given so far is a trickle, but they've been given in hospitals and hardly been given rolled out into primary care and into major vaccine centres. So until those numbers go from 100,000, which is a trickle, to millions per week, which is what we need and is a flood, we don't know how long it's going to take. We need millions of doses every week.
This guy here talks about this vaccine as though it's the God of Saviour. Getting this vaccine is going to bring us out of all these problems. It's our salvation. And yet, since they've rolled this out, we've been told about side effects, droopiness of the face or something, this Bell's palsy and stuff like this, and they don't know how long it's going to be before they're going to see the true result about how it's going to work. They don't know if it can stop people from spreading it, or make people still give people COVID, or cure someone from this COVID. I'm just speaking from what they're saying here. Let me just repeat that I'm still in the belief that I don't believe anything's out there. Remember that, don't forget. And this guy here again, he's talking on the news, glamorising it as though it's push it out as far as possible, get everyone shot up with this vaccine, and it's going to make us all fantastically great again, and the world's going to live happily ever after. Well, it's a total contradiction from what I'm sure most of you lot would have seen or in your research, like what I've just mentioned, all these problems. So it's just baffling, isn't it? Because it's a total contradiction.
The GPs vaccinate 1 million doses a week for seasonal flu. We need to better that by several times over to be able to stop the cases, stop the deaths in short order.
Liam Smith, you're nodding there. What do you think are the stumbling blocks to rolling out vaccination faster at the moment?
I think exactly, I agree. We need more vaccine, we need more centres, and we need it rolled out in the community. I think people are making good efforts. In my area, they're making really excellent efforts. At the end of the day, they're offering any spare doses to local health workers, and I was vaccinated last night. And I think people are making the efforts. We need millions as quickly as possible, because really once we
got to be one of money, because he's reading it.
It'll feel very different in society, and we'll be in a much better position. We just need to go as quickly as we can. It's a real national effort.
And as you've been vaccinated yourself, tell us what it was like.
National
and perhaps
effort.
You can reassure
National
people
effort.
A bit worried
Remember
about it.
what I told you earlier. They're all in it together.
Very happy to reassure people. I know we developed this vaccine very quickly, as quickly as possible, but this wasn't done in a rush. This wasn't about winning a race. This was about going through the process of developing.
We developed it quickly, but it wasn't done in a rush.
The rigorous
it's a bit of a contradiction, isn't it?
Regulators, world-leading
you just said you developed it quickly.
Judged it to
it
be
was done
safe,
in a rush.
Given to humans. I was delighted to have the vaccine. I'd urge anyone who's offered this vaccine to take up that offer. Having vaccination protects themselves, helps protect the rest of society.
I resist
the offer. It's really
offer.
important we get that
Stick it where the sun don't shine, mister.
Get this virus under control and end the real misery. It's a misery for everyone. COVID.
What virus? I've seen no virus.
People and people who are sick, but also young people running businesses, everyone
9
in their
months have
jobs.
seen nothing.
Vaccine is the way out of
People
this.
who
I
were
would
sick are
urge
people who
everyone,
were sick
you know,
anyway. A lot of people are
take
already
your money
knocking
off
on
it.
heaven's door with certain things.
Professor Salisbury, one of the things
The video's now nearly at the end anyway, so I think I'll just leave it there. Didn't expect to rabble on as much as I have, but you never know where these videos are going to go. Anyone who watches and appreciates and leaves a comment, thanks a lot for doing so. Can you just do me a favour as well? I don't know if thumbs up on my comments are being suppressed or not, or people are just not doing that. Can you just make sure that if you do want thumb up me comment if you decide to do so. Thanks a lot.